Hello. Okay, here we are. I am super excited, genuinely thrilled to kick off our first ever Guttman President's Speaker Series. I have some early remarks to just sort of get us started here. So I'll do that and then hand it off and then catch it back and then hand it off again. So sit tight. The fun stuff will begin. And I'm also managing a waiting room, so I will excuse myself in advance in case something does happen. So thank you all for joining. This is really exciting. Thank you for watching. If you're watching it after the fact, that's also something that we're really grateful about. Guttman is, as I assume many of you already know, but I will say just for good measure, one of the newest two-year colleges in the City University of New York. It's designated as an HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution, and an MSI, Minority Serving Institution. Since 2012, its inaugural class, the college staff and faculty have committed to fostering a really academically rigorous and equitable ecosystem. And so we're continuing that work here. So the Guttman model also requires students to enroll full-time as a cohort and participate in robust weekly programming. Hopefully this will continue to add to that weekly programming with faculty, student success advocates, peer mentors, presidents, and guests, as we see. We have a stellar reputation, and we've been featured in peer-reviewed journals and presentations for our graduation rates of 40% or higher, which, as you know or may know, surpasses that of local and national two-year community colleges. And we've have cited completion rates between 14 and 20%. So as a result, student success outcomes are very high, and we get all sorts of honors and recognition. Niche.com is notoriously rating us as the best community college in New York City, and we have high rankings on a national scale with them as well. So we take so much pride. I take personal pride. All of us take a lot of pride in this recognition, and we're excited to continue that and bolster it even further. Dr. Johnson.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This inaugural speaker series is a great opportunity, I believe, is to bring persons to our college who are not only champions for equity, inclusion, diversity, and belonging, but also champions who promote and advance the great successes that happen here at Guttman Community College, but also at community colleges throughout the City University of New York and also abroad. So this is an opportunity for you to meet some of those courageous, some of those dynamic, intelligent, and speakers who are doing amazing work in their respective fields of influence. And you will meet one today in just a few minutes. So this year, we've entitled the series, certainly one that speaks to what we've experienced: strength, courage, and resilience in the 21st century. And we've all, over the last 18 or more months, had to grapple with different pandemics. Certainly there's the health pandemic that we've grappled with, but also the social and the racial inequalities. And we've seen so much that is taking place in terms of a clarion call for how we can do better. And these conversations over the series of months and years as we continue with this program will embrace and really help us to really understand how we fit in that sense of belonging and how we fit within this ecosystem of higher education, how we can use our influence to ensure that students are successful. So that is our framework, that is our context for how we will move forward. And now to hear about the dynamic speaker and leader par excellence that we have today.
Thanks, Dr. Johnson. I get to read through / introduce Juvanie Piquant, who's here with us today. Super excited for that. Juvanie is the first Haitian-American woman to serve as a University Student Senate, or USS, chairperson, which means she represents more than 500,000 full and part-time students in CUNY across New York State, and is the only student member of the City University of New York Board of Trustees, which I am excited to hear more about. It sounds like an interesting position to be in. Also, a very recent update from Juvanie is the executive vice president role on SGA, which is just continues, Juvanie just continues to pile these on. So Ms. Piquant is a senior at New York City College of Technology, where she's majoring in law and paralegal studies. Previously, she also served as the vice chair of legislative affairs for the USS, ensuring the students of CUNY had a representative that would advocate for the advancement and affordability of higher education at local, state, and federal levels. Prior to her work at the USS, Ms. Piquant served on the board of directors for the New York Public Interest Research Group, NYPIRG, for 2 consecutive years, focusing on higher education and environmental policy in New York City and New York State. As an aspiring attorney, which some of our RSVPs have some questions about, so maybe we can get to those. Ms. Piquant is a member of the Haitian-American Lawyers Association of New York, which has a goal of working with various individuals in the legal profession to create access and opportunities for aspiring law school students. As a Brooklyn native, born and raised by Haitian immigrants in Canarsie, Juvanie has seen firsthand the importance of access and affordability of education for the most marginalized in our city, New York City, and hopes to empower youth and her peers at CUNY. And on that note, I will disappear and continue to manage from the back. Super excited to hear you all and grateful to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos. If you guys can give Carlos a virtual round of applause for helping to coordinate and get everything going. Welcome, Juvanie. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Carlos, for an extraordinary introduction. And thank you for the work that you've done to put this wonderful forum together and for us to exchange a great dialogue. But I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great. How are you, Dr. Johnson?
I'm doing perfect. One of the things you mentioned that really resonated with me is Carlos was reading your bio around all of the great things that you've done. You mentioned that you recently finished midterm. So not only is Juvanie a superstar and an advocate, but she's also still a student and still making sure that all her obligations are being met. So kudos for modeling the way, Juvanie. Thank you for that. And we know that you did well. We know that you did very
well. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's get right into this conversation. First of all, thank you so much, Juvanie, for accepting the invitation to be the first speaker of the speaker series here at Guttman Community College. So your journey is one that is very interesting. It's very impressive. Can you just share a brief overview of your journey with us and how you became a student trustee?
Sure. Well, I started at CUNY, the first journey to getting involved in any sort of leadership role in student leadership role at this institution was first being a student. Being a student is one of the most fundamental things, and I think it brings you the opportunity to get involved more. So when I was a freshman, I walked in, but I did my research. I had like a little piece of paper and I said, okay, these are the 5 things I'm going to do. And I'm going to look for this organization, look for that organization. And I was also new to New York City because I used to live in South Florida throughout my middle school and high school years. But my family has a vast history within CUNY, whether it may be teaching or attending CUNY. And I remember that I saw this organization called NYPIRG and I decided to get involved. I thought it was great. You're talking to people, you're building awareness about civic engagement, you're letting your peers know about what's going on. And ever since I joined NYPIRG, it's been history. I decided to get involved in my student government to figure out how I can create changes on my local campus, but then also getting involved with University Student Senate, where it gives you the opportunity not just to advocate for students within your campus or within CUNY, but taking that a step further into New York City politics, into the legislature, into federal government. And it has been an experience that has been truly an honor. It has been one in a lifetime experience. And I think it has shifted who I am as a woman, as a student at CUNY, but also helped me see the capabilities and the remarkable things CUNY has to offer.
Oh, that was a great response. And something that you just said in the last few words is how it shaped your experience as being a woman in leadership. So follow up with that a little bit. Talk a little bit about just some of the, I would say, the struggles of having to, be in a role most times. Sometimes these roles are male dominated, but you were able to rise to being one of the dynamic women, articulate women to move into this role. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I think my experience is not a one size fit all, because everywhere I walk into, I make sure I don't let just people know that I'm a woman, but I am a Black woman. And that is another layer of disparities and marginalizations that I face religiously. And I think for me is knowing that there are going to be challenges along the way, but shifting the narrative in society and letting them know young Black women can in fact rise to the occasion. And the reason why we can rise to the occasion, the reason why I rose to the occasion, is because I was surrounded and cultivated by people who believed in me, who saw this young Black girl and decided to give her opportunities. And that's what CUNY did for me. And when you look at students who get involved, when you look at the trajectory of their involvement and the extraordinary things that they've done, it is because most likely there was that professor, there was that organization, there was that forum that student went to, and the rest was history. So it's just to say, if you invest in young marginalized individuals, if you invest in young women, the possibilities are endless. And I think it's not because we are not capable. We are fully more than capable, but we know the way society is set up, it does not allow us to make it that easy than our male counterparts or other counterparts that are not women of color or Black women. And it is a truth that we have to reckon with. But I think it's very important, despite the challenges and adversities, we stick it through. And it is not just to hide away the stories of our struggles, but to share our struggles and our stories, to let them know this is what's happening and there is a community. But also we will continue to fight to ensure that society knows that young Black women are capable and women are capable in anything that they desire to do.
Oh, I mean, that's a mouthful right there. You know, 2 snaps for you. Awesome. Thank you for that. So I have a question here from the audience. It's from Bashir Jarara. He asked the question around, how do you make sure your team or your colleagues do their work without making them feel like they are being forced to do that work?
Well, I think when I first started being chair of University Student Senate, just a little context, you're a student leader and you manage a staff of people, right? This is the first time probably any student is going to be managing an administrative staff of people who, receive a salary and they're supposed to get work done for you. And then you also have an executive board that you're managing, and you also have a body which is called a plenary, 40 to 50 people and even sometimes more. So I have a steering of 9 people that I'm managing. I have a staff of about 4 to 5 people that I'm managing. And then you have a plenary that you're overseeing. So as a young woman in leadership, at such a vast role, that wasn't my first role of leadership, but it was the first role that was extremely vast. I had to learn how to delegate. And I think sometimes I still struggle with that. But at the end of the day, I think it's very important for you to know that you cannot let the position drive you. You must get in gear and drive the position. And when you have a common ground consensus with your team, I think it's very important to know their strengths and weaknesses. I like to call these sort of things empathy assessments, where you kind of see where individuals are strong and where individuals are weak. And everybody has something to offer. And as a leader, your job is to do that work to see what is that light in that person and amplify. Many of the most successful people around the world do not focus on the things that they're bad at. They expand on the things that they're good at. And if you do that with your team and you delegate, but also giving people means of things that they can achieve and excel in, it is very important. It is not just important as a leader to give folks things to do, but also making sure they have that self-fulfillment in their work. And they are also learning a part of that journey. And I think that's what makes it worthwhile.
That's great. And I want to really build upon the statement, everyone has something to offer. So when you think about that, let's think about the role beyond the student, the staff member. Let's think about the role of the faculty member from your perspective. I have a question here from Dean Blake, Nicola Blake from Guttman Community College. And her question is, beyond the classroom, what role should faculty play and advancing student success, building upon the theme, everyone has a role to offer to play in student success?
I think the most important thing is mentorship. There's this saying that someone told me, I can't remember who it is, but it goes as this: going can never tell been how to get there. Only been can tell going how to get there. And to put it in a more simplified way is only people who've walked that journey can give you the best trajectory on how to move in that journey. Mentorship is very important. You can give someone the playbook, you can write down everything that people should do, but experience is something that is truly valuable. And there's no price to it. So I think mentorship is a very, very important thing that faculty can play a role in, but also inspiration. I think sometimes individuals in academics are sometimes very focused on ensuring that they're teaching the content and the student is meeting the grade and making sure they're submitting this on time and making sure they're doing these assignments. But if we're being honest with ourselves, those are not the only skills you need to be successful in this world. You need the skills of building consensus with people. You need the skills of collaboration. You need the skills of emotional intelligence. And when you incorporate all of those things within the classroom setting, within the work that you do, you give a student a different perspective. Giving the students the skills of a growth mindset. And I think it's very important. Do not focus your teaching just singularly on a grade and teaching the content, but also the most impactful thing you can do is empowering students, even when they fail, because they will fail. And I don't mean failing as a letter grade, but just failing in every aspect in life. The most important thing is people knowing that you can get back up from failure. And I think sometimes a lot of young people do not think they can. They do think failure is the dead end, but failure is inevitable. And the whole test of life is, how do you move past your failures? And do you have the mindset to move past it? And I think that is the role an institution can play, faculty can play, and the CUNY community can play for the students.
All right, that's a great response. So moving a bit further, as you're really talking about the student experience, the various roles that persons could play, you're preparing for a role in a couple of, I would say, months or years as an attorney. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is it specifically that led you to say, this is a role that I one day want to aspire to?
I often think the field of law, especially when you are focusing on Black people and people of color, you see this nationwide and globally. It is often the most marginalized who are not aware of their rights. It is often the most marginalized who are being taken advantage of due to their fundamental rights. And I do think it plays a huge role in the system that is created by design to ensure that people who look like me, or whether it may be women, people of color, Black people, not knowing their rights and being taken advantage of in this society. And it is such a complex and vast field. I like to think law, politics, and money play a huge role in how the world functions and how we functions and how things affect us. And law affects legislation. Legislation affects the people's lives. And socioeconomic status also plays a huge role in all of that. If you think about it, the most horrible laws that we have is because legislation we have is because of a certain law that was passed where a judge made such and such decision. So there's an intersection between the both. And I realized at a very young age, for my community, not just being a Black woman, but a person of Haitian descent, making sure people who are marginalized are not taken advantage of. People know they have a right to speak up, but also know that their voice has power. And I think that it's such a cliche saying of your voice has power, but sometimes people don't really realize how much power their voice has. And that's something that wanted me to become an attorney one day, understanding the field of law, advocating for the most marginalized, but also knowing that throughout this country, there are not many Black women who are lawyers. And I think it's every decision that I make is not just only a decision to change the status quo, but also reaffirming what I already know. that to be true is that Black women are capable. People are capable, and it's all about opportunities that are afforded to them to make their dreams a reality.
Oh, that's a great point. And as you were speaking about, your desire to become an attorney and the why, I thought about Dr. King. You talk about marginalized communities. You talk about persons having a voice. So when I think about the quote that Dr. King states, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. What does that mean to you? If you can take it a bit further.
I think when there is a moment to speak up to elevate change, to speak up and say things that everyone else is afraid to say, that is the moment when you see change. And when you look at history, we can go all the way back to slavery. We can go back to the civil rights movement. The moments that created change weren't moments of just apathy to their oppressors. It was when resistance was met, resilience was met. And I think one of the most important things, for example, slavery teaches individuals, one big word I think about is resilience. And I remember that word through every challenge I go through. And I always think to myself, if I am awarded the opportunity, or I have the opportunity to sit in a room to elevate the concerns, to elevate things that may be difficult to be said, but must be said, and I have failed not only myself, but my community and my values. And even though it's hard, I think it's very important. It's very important for us to live in a place of truth. It is very important to speak the truth, because far too long, ignorance and evilness go hand in hand. And it is very important for us to know that these conversations need to be elevated. And obviously there's a way of doing it, and there's an art to politics, and there's an art to consensus building. But I try my very best every single time that I can to say the truth and to speak the truth, because I truly believe that's where the conversations are going to start getting to the places they need to. But that is how you see change. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You have to change the status quo, and you have to do that with different things that you do. And that forces other people around you to think a little further beyond of what they're normally thinking of.
That's amazing. So in shifting from that context of, having a voice and, the militant way in which, you've supported students and social justice, let's go to a little lighter approach in terms of getting involved in the rich diversity in the culture of New York City. And as you reflect on your experiences as a student, as a scholar, as a leader, what advice would you give to students interested in getting involved in the city?
I would say first, believe in yourself and know that your doubts and fears are extremely minuscule in versus to your ability to succeed. I think sometimes we focus a lot on what we can't do and what we don't have the opportunity to do. And it's very important to focus on what you can in fact do. Believing in yourself is an extremely important thing. I think it does take a skill that's not cultivated overnight. And you need to put yourselves in places that will position you for the next position. And I don't think I just became USS chair overnight. I think I can look back at 10 things I've done in the past 10 years of my life that have led me to this moment. And I think it's very important for you to diversify your portfolio, trying new things and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Some of the scariest things I've ever done in my life were things that shifted me, that challenged me to become the better leader that I am today. And that helps me instill courage in me. And I think the second thing is to listen. Nobody knows it all. And listening is such an important skill. And I think listening will take you a very long way. I think networking is extremely important. And I don't just mean networking with the people who have a title. Everybody has a story and something to offer. And I think building relationships and sitting down to speaking with everyone, whether it may be the people who work in the cafeteria on your campus, to the public safety, to the secretary, to the person that is working in the professional development office, they all have a story as to why they're working at Guttman. They have a story as to how they got into CUNY. They have a story that has propelled them to be where they are today. And I've learned the most from CUNY, what CUNY has done to people and for people throughout those stories. And I think that has connected my fight in advocating for students a lot more stronger, because those relationships that you build and those stories that you hear when times get tough, that is what you're going to lean into. When challenges arise, that is when you're going to know this is my purpose, and that will keep you laser focused. So that's what I would say those three things are. And just know that you're going to fail, but it's about how you bounce back, and you will bounce back. You will bounce back. And I think it's all about perspective, and it's all about mindset. And once you have those keys, I think the world and the universe is yours, and whatever, you want to do.
You said it well earlier when you used the operative term resilience. It's all about resilience, and some may say grit. So certainly appreciate that feedback to many of our students that are participating. I have a question here from one of the Guttman faculty, Vivian Lim, who says, what is one thing you would like all CUNY students to get out of their education?
I think one thing I would want CUNY students to get out of their education is, it has nothing to do with education or academia, but I would say hope. I think hope is extremely important. I think when you lose everything in life, when you lose, if you've lost everything you've ever had, if you are in the most challenging times, I think hope is what keeps you going. And if students have hope, if they have the faith that they can to keep going, to go out there and change the world, I think that is the most impactful thing single-handedly CUNY students can receive. And I've received that. My thoughts of wanting to be committed to a better world and a better city and various avenues did not just come because I woke up one day and, whoa, that's just what I think and that's what I'm committed to. It was because the conversations we had in the classroom. It was because I saw the work that my professors would do in ensuring that we are the most knowledgeable students ever, and putting that effort in, but also building community. And I think some of the best courses and classes I've ever taken were classes that felt like community, were classes that I felt celebrated and who I was as a Black woman. And I was not afraid to speak of my experiences, but my professor also lent that helping hand of showing, well, this is how you can go out there and create changes in whatever respective area. So I would say hope is very important. I think students are not going to remember what they learned in a course. They're going to remember how their professor made them feel. I remember single-handedly all of the professors who've said that great thing on that assignment, or I was struggling on something, they gave that compliment, or they were the ones encouraging me, the one who stopped in the elevator to just say hi and ask me how I'm doing. Ask your students how they're doing, how are they feeling? Sometimes in your classroom, that is the only time someone is asking them, how are you doing? And that goes a long way. And students will remember that. And I think is extremely important that students, receive that hope from the classroom. So that's what I would wish for all the CUNY students.
You're challenging one of my favorite poets, Poet Laureate Maya Angelou, who said those exact words. So I want to go back to something, as you talked about activism. And when you think about the world of tweets and hashtags and IG posts, well, it seems like people have, it's pretty much a short attention span. There's something may happen, we get excited about it, and then all of a sudden it dies down because it's no longer the hashtag. And it's no longer the theme of the day. So how do you encourage students, or might you encourage people to do more than just that? Not the social media presence. And it's not that it isn't important, but how do you make sure that people take activism to the next level beyond it just being a hashtag?
In order to be an activist, you must be active. And that doesn't mean active talking, that means active walking the walk. Some of the greatest leaders and movement leaders did not just hold the rallies and the marches. They went to the meetings. They went to the hearings. They decided to do the things the general population did not want to do. And I think in any cause that you are fighting for. It's very important. And being on the CUNY board has taught me that competence is very important. It is very important that you know what you are talking about and you have done your homework. And life is all a test about, have you done your homework when you rise to the occasion? And it is very important for you to do the things that generally people do not want to do. Taking a step further, going to that committee meeting, going to your college council meetings, going to the town halls, because that is where you are going to elevate concerns at such a grassroots level. And when it is time to take it to the next level, you are prepared to do so. So being an activist requires you to be active. And I think social media is a place of amplification. I don't think it's a place of origination. I don't think it's a place of where you originate things and ideas, but I think it's a way to amplify. And that's what I use social media for. I use it to amplify what's being done, but I know the true work comes of meeting with students across student government, going to these committee meetings, having these meetings, organizing and strategizing. And we use social media to amplify the cause. So I think it's very important before you think about amplifying something, figure out where something is going to originate from and making sure you have a strong foundation to make that happen.
I like that word amplify. That's one of my favorite words. Thank you for that response. I have another question here from Nestor.
Yes.
And Nestor's question says, was there a defining moment for you when you saw that CUNY was going to be that force that helped you realize your dream?
Yeah, I think it was when that I got involved, but I also saw the possibilities and the power in students. And I just thought to myself, well, if I got involved in a larger scale, this is what could have been done. This could be done. And I think also being a student member on the Board of Trustees, pushing your colleagues to think beyond of what they think of, to think beyond the things of that they normally done. And I think that I've done just that, changing the narrative, changing how we look at issues, being unapologetic in how I can elevate student concerns was the important thing. And I also realized, being the only student member on the Board of Trustees, I was at an advantage. I was the person in the classroom, sitting there, receiving and being a recipient of everything that CUNY produces. And I have a firsthand experience about how this affects me. I have a firsthand experience about, is it working? Is it not working? And I think all of these things propelled me to know how to make the decisions, how to know how to advocate for one another. And I think that pivotal moment was when I got involved and I knew that, wow, like I want to be able to show New York City the possibilities within CUNY, but also making sure throughout my trajectory of student leadership, CUNY is better than how it was when I got in. And I think that is definitely a fact.
I love that. The contribution to making sure that you're adding value so that you leave an organization better than when you arrived. That's amazing. So oftentimes leaders, they have the heavy burden to meet demands from multiple stakeholders. And I feel that every day. As you reflect on your experiences, what advice would you share with potential student trustees who may be confronted with this challenge on their local campuses?
I think it's important to know, no matter what you do, you will not be able to make everyone happy. I think as a leader, that is something you have to reconcile with. If you're going to a position of leadership to make everyone happy, I don't think leadership is for you, because leadership is not that. Leadership is when you have the distinct ability to elevate concerns and getting results. It is very important as a leader to demonstrate how, in fact, will you get results with the things that you say you're going to do. And it is very important when you lead to be very comfortable in your style of leadership. And that is something I learned very early on at USS. You're going to have so many people tell you so many things, so many stakeholders want so many things, but you need to know what you can actually achieve. You need to know how you're going to deliver that. But that doesn't mean you dismiss people's perspectives. You figure out how you can intertwine it in another way. And there is always a way. It may require a lot of thinking, a bit more conversations with those stakeholders. But I think it's very important to have that integrity in letting people know I cannot achieve this. That is also a part of leadership, letting people know I cannot get this done. And letting people know, but this is what I can get done, but also producing results. I think producing results is very important. I think as a leader, when you have a vision, people are expecting to see how is your vision going to become a reality and was it effective? And your job is to ensure that they can trust your process, they can see how effective you are, but never losing sight of how everyone has a role to play in your results. And it is your job, like I mentioned before, to see the light in everybody and figure out how they can in fact help you, achieve results. So I think that's how I made those decisions. There are some decisions some people weren't happy with, but the most important thing for me was I knew at the end of the day, I can go to sleep at night content with the decisions that I made and content with the integrity that I led with. And I think that is very important.
Spoken like a true leader, and that is why you are representing the students of the City University of New York. Juvanie, it has certainly been a pleasure to speak with you. The nuggets of wisdom, even as a president, I mean, you have just shared some things that have really enriched me even the more around the work that's so important and why I must advocate even the more for our students, because we are producing great students like you, and I'm so appreciative of your time. So appreciative of all that you've done. And I'm sure that there are so many phenomenal stories that we will hear about your leadership in the days to come. But before we end, is there anything that you would like to say imparting to this audience?
Yeah, I think we have many different stakeholders on the call. I see some students, I see some people from CUNY Student Affairs, faculty members at Guttman. I think it's just, don't lose sight in the importance of your job. I think you all are impacting students in extraordinary ways. And I think the students on this call, the possibilities for you and the opportunities for you are endless. And it is very important to believe in yourself and know that everything that you dream of doing is possible. And any dream that you have, ensure that it includes the progression of your people, the progression of your history and your ancestry. I think that's very important. In any role that I have or any dream that I have or goal, I make sure I don't lose sight of those who paved the way before me. And they're the ones who fought for me to get this opportunity. And there are still so many things to fight for. There are still so many things to change in the world. So in every little dream and goal that you have, make sure you think about how that is going to help the society and how are you going to help contribute to a better tomorrow. Because I think it's going to take all of us. And I think it's also going to take the invigorative hope that we all have to create a better society. And I think it is so important that you don't underscore that work that you do when you show up to the meetings, when you show up to work, the extra conversation that you have with your students, asking them, how is your day? Asking them, you're doing good, you got this. That goes a long way. And I think that those are those singular moments when you change a student's life. So I think continuing to do that. And I know that it is definitely not an easy task and job, but it is something that is worthwhile because you are cultivating, creating extraordinary leaders and students. And those students will have a chance and an opportunity in life. So that's what my ending parts would be.
I love it. Well, again, Juvanie Piquant, thank you so much for being here. Student trustee, excellent leader, and we so appreciate your service to our students. Everyone, thank you for participating.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you can give a virtual applause, that'll be great. So coming up November 29th from 12 to 1, if you would like to spend your lunch with me again, I will have another dynamic speaker, Ron Kim, who is a New York Assembly member for District 40. So please join us. We will get information out to you. And if you are available, we would love to see you here. Again, this is Guttman Community College President Speaker Series, Fall Edition. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. And thank you, President Johnson.